Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today I thought we would make a card using Concord and Ninth's Bright Blossoms inlay dies. This is a 6-piece die set, and this is an A2 panel. So you're going to need a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 in various colors for this. And they do give you some little samples here on the back. Well, one sample using different colors, and I want to change it up a little bit. I want some dimension because this is just a flat image. And let me show you what I mean. So here I have just inlaid. I used the die and I cut it out in different colors, and I just inlaid the pieces in there. So it's flat. It's completely flat. And then I've got one here where I dry embossed my background, and then I placed the images on top. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it gives you kind of like a pillowy quilted look. So that's what we are going to do today, but I am actually going to try to give it some more dimension and depth. So I've got my die here, and I know that I talk a lot about dry embossing, but I haven't actually really showed you. I've got my Platinum 6 plates here. I've got the A plate, the B plate. This is the platform top. Then I have my E rubber mat. Then I am going to take my die and my cardstock. I am going to line those up in my die because this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I already had this panel cut to that size, and I don't want to use a larger piece. So I'm going to line that up, place that on the rubber mat, put my C cutting plate on top, and run that through my machine. And while I am over there, I will also cut out two, one in green and a darker purple, but I'm going to cut these. I am not going to dry emboss these. So let me go do that. So I've got my green panel cut and my purple panel cut, and then I've got my dry embossed image here. And I just love how you get all that dimension. That's one thing, you can always use your dies and your hot foil plates to get more dimension. And I just love that on a background. So what we're going to do next is I want a lot of dimension. And then if you get like extra little creases in there, you can see where it kind of bubbled up the paper. Just take your bone folder and you can try to smooth that out, and that will help quite a bit. So I want extra dimension on my images here. I'm going to bring in some scratch paper, but first I need to separate. All right, there we've got all our pieces separated. I am going to add ink blending to the edges of the images. We're using Pink Fresh Opulence and Pink Fresh Olive. Let's start with our purple, our Opulence. And I'm not really usually a purple gal, but I figured why not? Let's go ahead and do that. I need a birthday card for my mom, and she likes purple, so I figured let's do purple. And I don't want it to be too heavy. I'm just adding shading around the edges. I don't want it to turn black. I don't want to go so heavy that image turns black. I just want to add a little bit of accent to that. And we'll just do all of our flowers with the opulence. And I'm just trying to get on the edges. I want to leave the center of that flower the original color of the paper. And my paper just came out of my stash. So just look through whatever you have, and any color will do, any color combination. And I'm just trying to keep that on the edge of the flower and not go too far into the center. And that just gives it so much depth. So now I will go ahead and move on to my olive ink, and we will do all of our leaves here, all of our greenery image. Actually, that's a flower. I left that in there on accident. And the same thing, we're just going to add some depth to the outside of these images. And there are a couple little leafy images here with tiny parts, and I'm being careful not to go too heavy over those because I don't want to bend those leaves. So there we've got highlights on all of our images, and we are already ready to start assembly. We can bring in our panel, and I just love dry embossing. I really do. So I think we should start down here with our bottom flower. Let's get everything in the frame here. And this is our bottom flower. And when we lay these on top of that embossed image, they just kind of really fall into place. So it's super easy to do. I hope everybody is having a fabulous day. What kind of project are you working on? Please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And that flower just kind of snuggles right into those embossed lines. So it's super easy. Now we'll bring in this flower, greenery image, and I think it's this one here. And we're going to go up, and then we will continue on the other side. And you can see those just lay right into place. That is perfect. Then we've got our other flower here. We just have to figure out which way it goes, and that is perfect. I actually did that pretty well. So let's get that added. And that just snuggles right into place, just like that. And if we need to, we can kind of move that other image a little bit so they match nicely. And this actually comes together really quickly. I love paper piecing. I think it's like doing a puzzle, you know, and I love puzzles. So that's kind of why I think I like paper piecing so much. And you know just where to put everything because you've got that embossed mark, and that is coming along beautifully. I wish you could see in person the depth that ink blending on your flowers and your leaves and then that embossed image gives. It is just beautiful in person. I guess I didn't need that one. We've got our last piece here. That's just going to snug right into those notches. And that is perfect. I've just got a little hair paper fiber there. And now we can bring in our little centers for the flowers. So I am just doing those in the same color as my background. All I did was take the die, put individual little pieces on those centers, and run that through my machine. And we're just going to get these added. It's really, really easy to figure out which direction they go and which piece goes where. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue into the center of these flowers and then get those pieces placed. And that was our last piece. Isn't that pretty? I'm not usually purple. I'm not on team purple, but I do like this. So because each piece of paper, you know, no matter how hard you try to cut it the same size, you are always a little off. So I'm just going to take this in my big trimmer and clean up my edges just a little bit. So all I did was just take a little sliver off of the bottom and the side here, and that is so pretty. I love that. Let's get this added. And we are directly adhering this to our card base. Then all that's left to do is embellish and put a sentiment on there. So I really wasn't sure which sentiment I wanted to use. I didn't want it to be too large that it took away from the floral image or too small that it got lost. So I pulled out of my stash this Happy Birthday hot foil plate and die from Waffle Flower. This is classic Happy Birthday, and this fits in there perfect. But I don't know which sentiment we should use. Should we go with the darker outline or the same color as our background. You know what? I like that one. I like the same color as our background. And I'm using the thin foam squares today because I want this to mail easily. So let's get this placed. So I'm kind of centering that sentiment. So we've got a little bit of it on the top flower and a little bit on this flower on the left. And that is perfect. So now all we have to do is add some embellishments. I wasn't sure if we should use Pink Fresh Lilac or, you know what, this doesn't have a name on it. These are the iridescent. So I've got a couple of both on there. You know, I think we're going to go with the iridescent. I think that will just add a little something extra. And that card is done. Isn't that pretty? I just love that. And because it's flat, this will mail so easily. And I don't think you'll need extra postage. We've got, you know, our card base and cardstock, but I think it's still light enough to not need extra postage. I will have everything used today listed and linked in the description below. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.